friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Tori, and today I'm going to be sampling the first chapters of 6 SPFBO competition entrants. So if you don't know what SPFBO is, once again, I'm going to put up in the cards my intro to SPFBO video where I talk about my own entry and what is SPFBO and some of the books that I'm looking forward to reading in the competition. But essentially, it is an indie fantasy competition founded by Mark Lawrence that runs every year, 300 entrants down to 1 winner in about 11 months. So that's the gist, and I picked up so many of the competition's entrants this year. I am so excited to read a whole bunch of these books. There's some phenomenal talent in this year's pool of books, and that's just really exciting to see. And so I picked 6 of the books on my TBR to sample the first chapter in a vlog that I share with you guys. Now, the fun part about this is that I am not doing it alone. I'm going to be joined by my good friend Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly Reads, linked down in the description box below. And I'm also linking Andrew's video because both of us were vlogging and we were both reading the same 6 books. So it's kind of a collaboration between the two of us to sample some SPFBO. Now, before we get into this, I do have to make a quick disclaimer. Andrew is one of the judges on Team Bookborn, and I am an entrant in the judging group Fantasy Faction. Because of this, we both decided to eliminate any books off of this list that were either in Andrew's judging pool of 30 books or in my judging pool of 30 books, just to remove any conflict of interest from the two of us doing this collaboration. But beyond that, it was fair game, and there were so many great books to pick from, and I had a fantastic time with these. So, the only other disclaimer I will make is that I was very sick during the filming of the beginning of this vlog, so just bear that in mind. I've had better days. I've looked better on camera for sure, but I hope you enjoy the vlog because I had a great time taste testing these books. Let's go. Okay, so this is vlog section 1, and I'm going to be starting with Curse of the Fallen by H.C. Newell. I don't know much about this other than the fact that it is a fantasy that has some different classic races in it. I know there's an elf, and that's pretty much all I know about it, other than it's supposedly a subversion of a Chosen One trope. So yeah, here we go. Let's see how it is. So I did cheat just a little bit, and I continued on to chapter 2 just because chapter 1 was so short that I felt like I needed a little bit more to kind of give me a good feel for the writing style and where the character setup and all that. What I'm really liking about it already is that we are thrown into some peril right away with a small group of friend characters. A human, a elf, and a creature that is a shapeshifter. It's definitely giving me some Motley Crue vibes, but it's not in, I don't feel like 3 characters is enough to constitute a Motley Crue, so I don't know, like a Motley Few. Let's just call it a Motley Few, which I already love the dynamics of the little group of them. One of them is 300 years old, and then you've got 2 younger characters, so I think that that's a fun dynamic. There's a lot of action already in this first chapter. It's very fast. I'm trying to keep my comments mostly to chapter 1, but I'll include chapter 2 as well. I'm getting more character focus than world building, but the characters are also including a lot of, there's some world building going on in the conversation between them, and you can definitely tell that it's a world that they live in. So there are clearly people who will come after magic users and either, I don't know if they're going to be killed or do something with them, I'm not sure. Our main character is trying not to use magic, but right away in the beginning of the book, she's put in a situation where she has to. I do feel like it was a lot in chapter 1 and into chapter 2 of a lot of action. I was having a little bit of a hard time keeping up with that and just trying to figure out like, wait, I thought this person was like really hurt and then they're magically healed and by, you know, near using her magic. So I'm also not loving the dialogue so far. It does feel a little bit stiff in a couple spots. What I'm hoping is that in the next few chapters that we're allowed to kind of slow down with the characters a little bit more and kind of see them in a moment of rest now that we've had all this action and setup of the kind of stakes of the story. I do think that one of the things I want to talk about in this vlog that's a really important part of picking up a book and taste testing it is the cover and the presentation and the blurb. So the blurb for this book is definitely giving me some like strong expectations of what I'm going to find in this book. I'm definitely guessing classic tropes, but thrown into kind of a dark modern fantasy vibe. Within the first couple of chapters, I'm seeing some in-world creatures that was kind of cool. I really liked that. The cover of this book is beautiful. I really love it. It doesn't give me a very strong, like, this is what the book's about, but it is an incredibly eye-catching and magnetizing cover that immediately pulls me in. So that I really appreciate about it. And yeah, let's move on to book number 2. Okay, I'm moving over to my chair for this one, but number 2 on my sample list is Seeds of War by Joao F. Silva. This is one that I have been incredibly excited to get to, and Joao sent me a review copy. I have no idea what to expect for this one, but let's try it out and see what it's about. Okay guys, so I do want to talk about the cover and the back blurb, like I did for the last one really quickly. I love the color palette of this a lot, and what really draws me in, because this is a fairly generic, like, it's a fantasy cover. You obviously know what you're getting into, but what I really like about it is this kind of smoke element that's obviously magical, and that's something that I think is an immediate draw for me looking at this cover. We are introduced to the 3 POVs on the back. It's short, it's concise, and the little slogan phrase on the back here is, "He ran like the monster he was, and the smoke followed." I love that. I think that's a really, really good hook. I love that it's a short and concise blurb that gives me a lot of information about who I'm going to be following in this story. Anyways, I'm going to jump into chapter 1 and let's go. We open with Gimlor, who is one of the 3 POVs that is introduced on the back of the book, and she is an older woman who's kind of the spokesperson or general, like, elder of the village that she lives in, and they have these guests from a different part of the continent, part of the world, who are very interested in purchasing something from her people. Now, the place where she lives sounds like it's kind of, you know, not the greatest people that inhabit this area of the continent. She is doing some wheeling and dealing, and it comes out that she is going to sell these men from this other place a elixir from an animal that they have where they live that allows people to turn into basically super soldiers. This elixir is something that I would assume would be very sought after and would be something that would very much change the just general dynamic between countries and the power dynamic. The opening of this book definitely is giving me a little bit more on the side of plot / concept. Obviously, I'm meeting one of the POV characters, but I'm not getting any real depth to her yet. I'm definitely anticipating kind of some military fantasy moving forward in this, which I'm here for, and I'm curious to see how the super soldier elixir becomes part of the plot and really ups the stakes for the world that it's in. So think that is kind of my overall thoughts of chapter 1. It is really difficult to make any kind of articulate, this is what I think, off of the first chapter. This is a good challenge, so I'm excited to keep going and do it with a few more books. Hey guys, so I'm back and I'm still sick, but I am here to do another one of the first chapter samples from the SPFBO reads, and today I'm going to be diving into this beautiful book, The Way of Renegades by Steve D. Wall. I do want to talk about the back blurb and the cover a little bit like I did with the other ones. So this cover is beautiful. I absolutely love it. I love the colors. I love that we get a very clear indication of some of the things that we're going to find in this book. We have the bard and flintlock front and center. We've got the sword kind of in the back, like it's kind of taking a back seat. And we've got this bag of coins. So I love how simple it is, and yet how many elements there are on the cover that really draw me in and tell me what I'm going to find when I open the book. The back blurb is quite a bit longer than some of the other ones that I have read, but once again, it is introducing all three of the POV characters that we follow in this book. It's interesting. I think for me personally, I'm the type of person that likes a little bit more of an overview, and I don't need quite this much. But that being said, everything in the back blurb is still very interesting and pulls me in more and makes me want to read about these characters. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think that's just something where I squirrel away from stuff too fast, and sometimes I can slow down, and it's okay that there's more information. Okay, so this one does have a prologue, so I'll be reading the prologue and the first chapter. Okay, so I'm only 2 pages into the prologue, and I already want to stop to say that I love when authors give you a sensory experience when they're starting off the book. So we're in a forest, and there's already some mystery and tension in what we're being told, and it starts off with some really good sensory like smells, and you feel the thickness of the air and that kind of stuff, which I think is really, really great when authors spend the time to give us kind of that environment experience right away when we're entering a scene. Wow. I loved that prologue. That was really, really good. One of the things I notice about when authors begin kind of in medias res within the action is that sometimes they jump, it can be very easy to jump into the actual physical action a little too quickly. And what I really liked about this one is it gave us kind of a few heartbeats before we were really, like, it built the tension and then let it fly, all within the span of, 8 to 10 pages. Really loved that prologue. We're getting great world building, we're getting creatures, we're getting a lot of information about the world and the stakes that are going on here. Without it, it didn't feel like an info dump at any point, because there really wasn't any. It was worked very naturally into the characters' thoughts and dialogue. Really, really liked that prologue, so I'm excited to keep going to chapter 1. Okay, you guys, I finished chapter 1, and clearly we're going to see some residual effects from whatever happened in the prologue through the rest of the book. We're introduced to quite a few characters in the first chapter, which was a little confusing, I'm not gonna lie, but I liked the kind of little crew of characters we're introduced to. I don't know how to say this, but the writing style was immersive pretty quickly to me. And I really liked it a lot. I loved the clash between kind of more the old world and the new world with the new technology, which we get in the first chapter, and it leaves me with a lot of questions about the magic system and how the prologue is going to affect the things that are happening for the rest of the book. Yeah, I mean, I get a motley crew in chapter 1, so I'm not mad about it. And it's a cool, like, flintlock versus more antiquated weapons moment, some action. I'm really liking this. This is definitely one that I'm going to be prioritizing. I think of this group, it's my favorite so far, just in terms of the first chapter. Now, Once again, I'm going to reiterate that judging a book by the first chapter is really, really difficult to do, but this one definitely is giving me a very solid hook. Hi guys, so I'm back with another taste test first chapter, and this time I will be delving into the Wickwire Watch by Jacqueline Hagan. I'm very excited about this. This was not one that I had originally kind of scouted out for myself on my TBR, but Andrew Wizard, who is doing this challenge with me, was like, hey, I really think you're gonna like this, throw it on your TBR. So I'm very excited to delve into this and see what's going on here. So let's talk about the cover a little bit and the blurb. The cover is very simple, and I do love a simple cover, and we have a little bit of detailing in the corners. I think old pocket watches are really cool. So I'm not mad about it. So I really don't know much about what's going on in the book, but I definitely think we're giving some hints here on the cover, as you can see in the corners. I really don't know what I'm getting into with this, which is kind of exciting. I'm looking for some flintlock, like maybe a little bit of steampunk. I'm not really sure. Definitely more modern time period than what I usually gravitate towards, which is not a bad thing at all. My cat just came in the room, so I'm gonna shut that door. So the reason that Andrew told me to put this on my list, and I'm really glad he did, was because it sounds like we're getting a little bit of kind of a con artist thief heist situation. Here for it, 100% here for it. And this definitely, from the blurb, draws me in more than it does with the cover. The cover is very cool, it's very simple, and I do like that it has some details in it that give you a little bit of insight, but this one, that blurb is quite lovely. So I'm very excited. Let's get into it. So I can't make it a whole lot bigger on my screen, but there's actually way more of a complex map in this than I would have guessed. So that's exciting. I'm not sure if we're gonna get a little bit of like an epic fantasy flair in here or what. We'll find out. That's a good opening sentence. I'm here for that. Had Mr. Bash known that this was the night he was going to die, he would have stayed at home. I'm intrigued. All right, let's go. Here, you're gonna help me talk about this book? Novia's gonna help me talk about this book. Okay, so we need to talk about this because that was a really short first chapter. I immediately want to keep going. It's only like 3 pages. This is a really, really short chapter, and I'm mad about it because I want to know more. Wow. Okay. First of all, the writing is beautiful. It sets a really pretty environment, and I like that we are introduced to a character. We are introduced to the fact that there's a little bit of a magic system and there's a mystery immediately, and it really does a good job of setting the stage for whatever is coming in this. I don't want to stop reading. I'm very intrigued, so it's definitely doing a good job with that. What do you think, Novia? She likes it. She definitely likes it. So yeah, top marks for this one. This is another one that I would definitely prioritize to keep going. On to the next one. All right, guys, moving on to book 5 already. This is Tim Hardy's A Quiet Vengeance, the Samarak Tales, book 1. This one, okay, let's talk about the cover. The first thing I notice about people when I meet them is their eyes. And one of the things that I love about this cover is her eyes are immediately, they're very deep and soulful, and they are pulling you into the cover. And that is something that I think works really well. Like, if you're going to have a person on the front of your cover, this is definitely more along the lines of what I would want to see, because she's immediately mysterious and interesting, and she looks like there's a lot of soulful magnetism there. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but my point is this has definitely grown on me since when I first saw it. The back blurb is another one that's pretty short, sweet, and to the point. I know that I'm going to be reading 2 characters. One of them is an abandoned child living on the streets, which is always something that I am here for, and then also a crown prince. So we're getting kind of 2 opposite ends of a cultural story. I'm excited about that, and these 2 characters are intertwined by some kind of very dark secret. So yeah, I'm excited to read this one and see what I find out about it. As you can see, Novia is still here helping me. So here we go. Okay, so I'm not a massive, I don't know if you guys can see, I'm not a massive fan of the map, but it is clean and simple and easy to read, so I appreciate that. So there is, oh hi, Novia's leaving me. There is a prologue, so I will be reading the prologue and the first chapter of the book. Okay, so in the prologue we get this really cute moment with an older brother meeting his baby sibling for the first time, and as a mom with 3 kids, it's cute. My kids were very got excited to meet each other, but I definitely know that sometimes siblings could do without each other, and that's just part of siblinghood. So I appreciate this setting up kind of a young version of one of the main characters that obviously we're going to meet more later. All right, just finished chapter 1 of A Quiet Vengeance. We've met both of the main characters, Dogen and Nimsa, pretty briefly with Dogen, but still enough to get a flavor for both POVs, which I like. And we're definitely getting right into the streets of this environment and this world, and there's a lot of names and countries being thrown around in conversation, which I like to some degree. Even though it can be confusing at the beginning, I do like that the characters just talk the way that they would if they knew everything in their world. Like, they know about these countries and this stuff and these names, and so to them that's very normal, and I appreciate when the author treats their characters as living in a world. Yeah, it's a little bit slower than some of the other beginnings, but what I like about it is I'm getting kind of a faint, like, Oliver Twist and Fagin vibe very slightly from this first chapter with Nimsa. She is a street urchin who is working for kind of a slumlord. So I'm really curious, as with all fantasy books or just books in general, I love when characters meet up. So I can definitely see where this would be really interesting to see where the prince and Nimsa, how they interact and how they're tied together and why and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, really liked this opening. Definitely one that I'll be continuing as well. And let's move on to the final book. All right, so the 6th and final book that I will be doing for this vlog is A Gamble of Gods by Mitriel Feywood. Now, Mitriel is somebody that I know on Twitter, and she's lovely, and I'm excited to get a chance to taste test a little bit of her book. I've had it on my Kindle for a while. So let's talk about the cover. First of all, I think that this cover, one of the things that concerned me initially, and this was a while back, was that I thought that there was a potential for a love triangle here, which I realize is me just being jaded from like a lot of the YA fantasy covers that I've seen, and honestly I do think this is a beautiful cover, but that was my concern at the beginning, which was one of the things that kind of made me hesitate a little bit. I do love, as you can see down on the bottom here, I do love the text. So I'm gonna jump into this and we're gonna see what it's about. Okay, so as I get started on chapter 1 here, I am meeting a character named Christian, who I'm guessing is one of the 3 on the cover. So I'm guessing that this first chapter is just going to be from his perspective. It's always hard because, you know, that's one of the reasons why doing just a first chapter taste test instead of like the first 3 or the first 2 or however many, is that you are limited to kind of taste testing the book based on one character if there's a multi-POV, which isn't always a bad thing. And I mean, it's just goes to show how important it is to write a good hook at the beginning, regardless of what character you're opening with. Let's go meet Christian. Okay, wow. That was not what I was expecting at all, in a good way. We're opening into a university, and I immediately get the sense that there's a magic involved. This is definitely like a fantasy, not our world situation, but it has an opening with a really great little moment of grief that gives us some back history, very just kind of a light touch. And then it gets dark fast. It is like suddenly a sci-fi fantasy murder mystery. We've got bots. We have like computer programs taking sentience. We've got like ninja blade masters coming in and doing some horrible things. Like what? Yeah. So based on the cover, I would never in a million years have guessed that that was going to be the tone of the story. Christian is an interesting character. He's definitely somebody that I can see like why she would tell a story through him, even in the first chapter. I'm still kind of percolating on what I just read. It's a fairly decent chunk of a first chapter. It felt a little bit rushed and confusing just with all of the things I was being introduced to as fast as I was being introduced to them in the first chapter. But overall, I'm intrigued. I'm definitely intrigued by where this is going, and now that I know it's a completely different world than I was anticipating. It's definitely kind of written in some form between almost like a diary entry and third person. So that's kind of an interesting mix within the first chapter already. But yeah, that's book 6 in the books. And we're back. So that is Sample SPFBO with Tori and Andrew, episode 1. You guys, these 6 books were so much fun, and I just had a really good time getting just a tiny taste test of some of the books on my TBR. I definitely had a couple of favorites that I will be reading in the very near future. I decided to pick up Way of Renegades after this vlog, and I'm about 150 pages into it now. I'm also planning on continuing very shortly with the Wickwire Watch by Jacqueline Hagan, because I also really enjoyed that one. Those were probably my 2 favorites from this group. But honestly, I'm excited to continue with all of the 6 books on this list, and they are all remaining on my TBR after the first chapter taste test. So yeah, I'm excited to get more into those, and I will probably be doing more of these SPFBO sample video vlogs in the future. But I hope you liked it. Let me know down in the comments if there are any of these books that caught your interest, or if there are any other books in the competition that you are really excited to read. There are so many, I don't have enough time in the day to get to all of them, but I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you're having a great week, finding wonderful 5-star reads, and I will see you in the next video.